7 in the morning, and I'm standing in Par Beach car park and about to do a fabulous walk. The birds are singing, and I'm joined by my old chuff, Gina. Good morning.
Good morning, Tamsin. How are you?
I'm very well, a little shocked. Let me explain. You're listening to Two Old Chuffs, The Tale of Two Hospices, a podcast from Cornwall Hospice Care. And we're here because I'm about to go off and spend the day with your husband.
You are. Off you go. You're very welcome.
We'd better explain.
Yeah, Chris is walking the whole of the Southwest Coastal Path for the hospice and for Stride, more of which you'll hear about later. But actually, he's on home turf at the moment. This is his last leg where he's stayed at home for the night. So it's lovely to be sharing that with you, Tamsin.
So, what's it like not having him around all the time? Because and loaning him out to people.
Well, he's never really far away, if I'm being perfectly honest. So the Find My Phone app is very good because you can find your husband on the Find Your Phone app, so you know roughly where he is. And yeah, of course I've missed him, but actually it's great for him. It's a bucket list for Chris. And I've seen some lovely places. So we've met up along the way at various points, and kind of worked out the logistics of trying to get these 63 days sorted between us. And yeah, so this is the longest stretch coming up as of tomorrow that he'll have been away from home. Yeah, we're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, but actually I think Chris is enjoying it, as you'll see and you'll hear.
Well, Chris, can I just say, there's hardly anything of you now, but clearly one of the things that's happened is you've lost weight.
I have lost weight, and it's been really nice. I felt, yeah, it's really good. Kind of, I was worried. I had a bit of a knee injury just before I started. I was a bit worried about that, and I've been wearing like a knee support, but that's done really well. My first few days were a life-changing experience going up and down hills, and I had too much weight on my back, and I realised I had to lightweight myself. I had to think only take what I really need. I think that's sometimes difficult, thinking I need that, I must have that, and you don't need that. And I think that's sometimes I think we learn in life we don't need all this material around us. We just need the things that really work for us.
Oh, you're going to laugh when you see what's in my backpack then. We'll move on. I was bound to ask this. Statistics this far, 1.5 stone lost in weight.
Yes.
And what else?
Oh my God.
How many miles have you done?
It's about...
Well, I can tell you that because I wrote that down last night. Sorry, just to make it... So it's day 38 today, set up on the 18th of May. It's a 630-mile round trip. And then by the time you get to Fowey this afternoon, you'll have done 377.5 miles.
The other thing I need to tell you is it's a bit like a Scouts thing. Is they started it recently, and it's a Southwest Coast Path stamp book. And I've spoken to Fraser, who's thinking about having it in the shops across the ones that are on the coast. And you get a stamp. You get a stamp in lots of places. And the other place I've really enjoyed is the Coastal Watch.
Yeah.
And I've had some. We'll talk about it in a bit more detail if we've got a chance. But I met a German couple that were doing half the coast, and we stopped at one near. It was near the Helford Passage. It used to be a torpedo testing place, but now it's a Coast Guard watch. And one of the guys could speak German, and he'd been to the same town where they live on the German-Denmark border, and his wife was just enthused. They were speaking in German, and she was delighted. And for me, it was getting the stamp, and I've spoken to some fantastic guys who told me about all sorts of things. And yesterday, I was near Charlestown, and there was something happening at coast, and it was really nice to see what was happening and how sometimes local people help out, as well as the statutory services helping people in need.
I think you're talking about the National Coast Watch Institution. My cousin is one of the watchkeepers. She's a volunteer at that very Coast Watch place. So that's a small world, isn't it? Yeah. And where are we going today, Gina?
Today, well, I'm hoping to pick you up from somewhere in Fowey.
Good.
So you're walking, back home for you, Tamsin, but home to Fowey, and then it's on to New after that, isn't it?
And the other one is a little bit of tie-up about I'm ex-forces and Gina's ex-forces, but on my first few days, I met a guy who was a Royal Marine. He'd already done the Southwest Coast Path, but he was doing a bit of the Southwest Coast and then the Tamara Trail. which is Morwenstow down to Cremorne. So it's that bit, that border between Cornwall and Devon, Jamon, Cremorne.
That'll be you next.
Yeah,
That's
that's me
next year, is it?
next year.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and then we realised he lives in Lanliv, or he lives very close to me, and he's invited me to the ex-services breakfast on the third Thursday of the month.
Fantastic.
So it's just fabulous.
Isn't it? And
That linkage.
I and a colleague attended a veterans breakfast in Lostwithiel at the weekend. So we're getting to
And
new
I'm going to Armed
communities.
Forces Day today at Truro County Hall. So, you know, we're celebrating all around. It's lovely.
Fantastic. Well, so you're not coming with us?
No, I'm going back in the car, heading off in that direction, Tamsin.
Well, thank you for the stats. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you.
And I guess what we need to do is get going, isn't it?
If that's all right, and we'll stop and have little chats and along the way.
I should hope so.
Yes, I love
And
so.
a banana, maybe.
And a banana and a drink
Yes,
and a piece of
thank
cake,
you.
maybe, and a coffee.
Hooray! Hooray! Let's go.
I do that.
Well, we've reached Polkerris. I'm feeling like an adventurer, and that's really only a very short distance.
It's been a real joy. It's been lovely because we've talked about so many things about well-being, about colours, about what makes us happy, what's important to us, about having the things we want around us, whether it's people, but also when my walk is about, do I need all this stuff? And sometimes I'm just looking about my rucksack, my walking pole, my tent.
And we've been looking at the weather because weirdly, if we look over towards, I don't know, probably Charlestown, the sun appears to be shining, but over where we are, there's a mist sort of hanging over us, isn't there? Like a bit of a curtain coming down.
It's quite strange. You're thinking, is it going to all burn off and we're going to be really hot? And I think the weather is changing. And I've got to say, I'm looking at the Rashley Inn now, and I'm looking at the ships. What, I don't know what you call them.
It's the
Figurehead.
Figurehead. Well done.
And I remember going to the Isle of Scilly, to Tresco Island, and they've got the gardens there, but it's got the Valhalla Museum. And please, if you ever get a chance, go to the Valhalla Museum, because they've got these amazing figureheads. I hadn't realised how many ships had gone down on the Isle of Scilly, but just looking at them are just amazing bits of art.
And of course, we're looking at the Sam's on the Beach, which was the lifeboat station.
Which was amazing, isn't it, seeing those? And as I've walked around, seeing the old lifeboat stations and new ones, and, you know, going by Milesole, and it's really touching. You're thinking how many people saved, but the people just so brave going out, because they're going out in awful weather to save people. And I see now in the modern days where people going out on inflatable craft and not knowing. And I think that's the thing, is we want people to enjoy their holidays. Oh God, we have to move a bit.
Other side of the poles for a minute.
But sometimes it is about having a good time, but being safe. And I think whether you're walking, you're sailing, whatever you're doing, whatever sports you're doing, you should try and reduce the risk, but having a good time. And that's what we want, is people to enjoy their holidays in Cornwall, but safe, and also to take your rubbish.
You see, I was just going to say, we've been past a really interesting piece of coastline where we saw the sheep who weren't at all bothered by us, but then we came round the corner and there's a pile of fishing debris, old bits of net and that, which someone really kindly has brought ashore. But, you know, here we are enjoying the natural world, but somehow we're ruining it as well.
And also, like yesterday, I was walking past Carlin Bay Hotel, and there's a few benches, and there was one where there were 3 bottles of wine, there's big bottles, and you're thinking, have a good time, drink, but please just take it away if you're going to go out. But actually, is that the right place? If not, go home or outside your tent, but don't leave it there. It's not hard to take it with you.
And I'm loving the pace we're going at. I can see now how you have survived so far on this walk, because you are taking stuff in. You're not just head down marching, are you?
Sometimes I have to, if I have to be somewhere. But I do like, you know, I like it's mix and match. Sometimes it's fast and sometimes, and I do like, we talked about, is getting up early. So you feel that it's yours. You feel like you walk in the park and you're the only person. It's like being in the swimming pool on your own. You're first person in. Or you're skiing and you look back and you're the first one that's done all the turns. There's something special about being on your own for a while. But then as the day wakes up, you start meeting people, and that's lovely as well.
And you've already met some really interesting people
Yeah.
along the way.
Absolutely. I met a German couple, and Arnie, who has just been such a special man. We met in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. We met at Lidl in Penzance, of all places. I wasn't meant to go there, only by chance. He was looking for a gas canister. We met early on in the path. He was only doing halfway, but we got to be friends along the way. And I met his wife, and it was really lovely. And he wants a picture of me finishing it, and I keep him updates with him, and it's been lovely. And we've talked about all sorts of things, and I think that's lovely sometimes when you meet people where you don't have to worry about telling them about things you wouldn't normally tell other people. And I think I can see why people do that. But it was lovely to be able to talk about everything about it. Nothing was had to be off the table, and that was really lovely, and not have to worry about actually saying what I thought.
So where are we heading now? We're at Cold Terrace, where it's still pretty misty.
Now we're going to do the zigzags up. The wild garlic's
I
quite
told
nice.
you when we came down, we're going to have to go
The
up.
zigzags. And I think then we're going to head out to Gribben. Hopefully the weather will have lifted a bit and we'll get the views. I always like going to Gribben Head. And I remember I went to Fowey School, and I think we had 4 classes. I think we had Gribben, Pencarrow,
Yes.
and I can't
yes,
remember the
that's
other 2.
right.
I can't remember.
Was Esther one, or was that primary
No.
school? Oh, someone will put us right.
Oh, we'll have
I'm
to put us
sure.
right. So there's 2 other
Yeah.
houses. If anyone's listening, I'd love to know which the 4 other
Brilliant.
houses were. A bit like Harry Potter and the Sorting Hat.
Well, you lead the way, and let's take a deep breath and go for it.
And we'll meet up and we'll have another stop and have another chat about the Gribben, I think,
Lovely.
if that's okay.
Sounds good to me.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I love those. Yes, I love those walking sticks, and the fact there's a boat engine started as soon as we start recording.
It's like, oh, we've got the beach, we've got the...
Exactly, and all that noise. These walking sticks are great. I think I've used them once before when I trekked for Cornwall Hospice Care in Iceland, because they kind of gave you a grip when you weren't sure what the terrain was underneath.
I think they do stabilise you. I think they just make such a difference going up and down. I think if you've got a heavier sack, but I think it does reduce injuries. And I think especially after a bit of rain we had recently on the steep downhill paths and that, it just gives you that bit of maybe confidence as well. But I think I see more and more ultra distance runners wearing poles. I think is a technique. It's like when people have broken a leg and they be given crutches, that people don't know how to use them. And I think it's like with anything, you have to learn how to use them. I think one of the things when people cross styles and that, you think, oh, I'm going to get beheaded or kebabbed.
Well, I have to say, I've hit you twice now with mine, but that's because I'm learning.
It's a learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so lightweight now. Yeah, go on.
Chris, tell me about Stride, because you're raising money on this incredible walk for Cornwall Hospice Care, who we both work for. Wonderful charity. But tell me about Stride, because that's the other charity that you're supporting.
So we work with young people across Cornwall, which is lovely, and it's kids that are schooled at home predominantly, and it's kids that normally wouldn't get involved in things. And I think being schooled at home, you don't always have that contact with other kids, and also sometimes that you're studying, but you don't have those chances to do other things and meet other kids. And for me, I feel very humble, very proud when I see kids complete things like the 10 tours. Or the other one is the John Muir Award, where it's looking at the environment and taking care of our planet and taking care of Cornwall. And like Cornwall Hospice, it's something I think it's very close to me because it's kids in Cornwall really challenge themselves to something they feel uncomfortable. And we talked about it as we were walking about. Sometimes it's really good to challenge yourself, but some of these kids find it very difficult, maybe just being in a tent or have anxiety or not sure if they can do something like that. They've never done like that. And to have a challenge like the 10 tours and to see their faces come in, I felt so proud of both those teams. So I know how much work they had to do. And I know my other colleague, John, we put a lot of pressure on them in the actual training to make sure that they've got the best chance to succeed. And I know some kids go, oh God, another. And sometimes and I'm so pleased this year because we had one weekend where it was a bit hotter. And I think actually that made such a big difference training that bit of heat because it was such a change because we've been training in rain and bad weather. And then suddenly was a really nice weekend.
And then Cornwall Hospice Care. I often get asked if I raise money, why are you raising money for the charity you work for? And I say, because I get to see every day the remarkable difference we all make as a team to families that it's the most devastating, awful moment in their lives when someone's going to die. But what's the motivation for you?
I think it's having that time. I've worked in A&E and I've worked in other bits of the NHS, and where you don't have time. And I think where the quality is spending time with people, getting to know them, getting to know their families, understand what they want, what they need. And sometimes it's doing those little things like, where they do a wedding, or sometimes has a meal, or you're just taking someone to watch the moon for the very last time, and you're with a family. I remember being on nights. I went down to St Julia's, and there was some sons, and they were there with a mum, and it was lovely seeing them holding the hand, talking to mum at the end. And I don't know what is a good death, but I think that was a good death because I felt like that they were all together at the end, and they reconnected as brothers, and I thought that was just lovely. So I think it's about having that care and making people, how you make people feel. And I think if you make people feel, okay, we can get through it. And I think also we're doing a lot more stuff now, is that like the walks and things like that, and we're doing like that social prescribing stuff outside as well.
And support bereavement support.
Yeah, bereavement support, and I think that's just so crucial. And I think sometimes if you're in an isolated village, I think we don't have those things now, a lot of the banks and shops, and I think sometimes we can become very isolated and lonely. But I love the care we give, and I think it's really special, and I hope it continues because it's such a lovely thing to have. It's needed.
And do you know what? On top of that, there's just one of the things in our purpose. It says we're here to make every day matter. Now, I get that for end of life, but actually for everyone else, we should make every day matter. We're sitting here now, we're at the Gribben Day mark.
Yes.
We've walked from Par, so we're not quite halfway yet into Fowey. We're looking out on the most beautiful sea, the sun's shining, there's cattle coming up the field. And I'm thinking, this it is something special, and I'm a great believer in the power of walking, running if you feel up to it, riding a horse, riding a bike, going on the water. I think don't underestimate how important that is to your health.
And I think we talk about religion, we talk about spirituality, we talk about the Camino way, we talk about whatever we do walking wise. And I think sometimes there is that about that journey. And sometimes I get, like we have certain words about on the journey, and I think sometimes it's overused, but I think there is that journey it's about our own experiences, about what we see. And it's always different for each individual, isn't it? About I'm not like this, but someone else loves that, and that's okay. And I think in the world today is that we still respect each other for what we like and what we do. Might not agree with it, but I think it's important that we get out sometimes and have that time away from our thoughts. Sometimes it is a distraction, or sometimes actually, like we talked today about, like seeing the sheep or seeing the birds, or looking out on the coast and seeing the sea, or seeing the mist rise, and those little conversations you have. Sometimes it's nice to share that, but sometimes in your mind, just thinking through, yeah, I feel really good about seeing that.
And also just about sometimes not even knowing you're thinking. I sometimes find that I've gone for a walk and my brain has sorted a few things out, maybe without me even realising.
Yeah, no, I think that's
You can hear the.
what's that?
That's the bell. That's the boy marking the Caddis Rocks.
Wow.
Somebody must have created a wash.
So the boat just going by now. Must have done
right.
it.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, fab. Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? About what kind of makes us tick, what makes us think about things, and about what sets things off for us, and about sometimes we can't make things change, and sometimes there's things out of our control, and we can't control those. We can't control what's happening with in the war at the moment, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening about the financial things. And I think if we watch too much media, that can really upset us and put us into a negative thing. So I think whether you're young or old, think about how much time you are spending looking at media, because I think sometimes that can really make us feel down, make us feel kind of negative and upset. And so do think about that, because I think it's really important to have time out. And also I think people doing exams at the moment, I know a lot of youngsters are doing exams, and I think about having a little breaks between revision and just having that bit of downtime, having a bit of fun, a bit of enjoyment, then back to revision, is sometimes if you do too much, you get jaded and sometimes you get tired. So having those little breaks is really important.
And we've talked about taking time to stand and stare. There's that famous poem, that says stop, and just take it in. We've done that today. We've just stopped and suddenly gone, wow, look at this. How lucky are we to be here today at this moment together?
And it's about that time and about where we are at that point, isn't it? And I think I talked about, like, in the navigational terms, sometimes we're looking about, actually we're walking miles out to that headland, but sometimes we're looking at about, do I need to turn or left or right? And like we talked about, actually sometimes we're looking at certain plants and things, thinking, how is that possible with that shape or that colour? Or we might be looking at that lighthouse far out again, or the sea that's really beautiful colour. So sometimes it's things that are close that are really important, and sometimes it's things that are far apart. But I think sometimes it's nice having those things that keep us going. And we talked about, when we run, about having those things, what's the next point, or I'm going to walk to that next point. And sometimes it's nice to have a distraction in life, to think, actually, what keeps me going, what keeps me happy, what's important.
Oh, there we go. That's the key thing, isn't it? Right. So we're at the day mark, and we've got two options here. We can go down the field, or we can go down a path there and through a bit of woods. It all leads down.
I'd like to go down the field, and I'd like to spend some time. Is it Menabilly?
Yeah, we go past Menabilly and into Pridmouth.
Pridmouth. And it's one of my favourite places to swim. I think it's a beautiful
place. Are you going to swim?
I've got a towel, but I haven't got any swimming kit. But I might put my feet in.
I won't look. Right, lead on.
Right, okay, thank you.
And this is my absolute favourite view. We're up on St Catherine's Point, and the harbour just opens up in front of you, and it's so busy. There's things going on, and you can see Fowey and Polruan, and I just think it's stunning.
I've really enjoyed it because we've just been walking along the ridge into Fowey, and there's been a couple of sailing boats, and we've heard the kids giggle because they've been doing capsized drill, and that's been lovely. And the fishing boats just come in, and the dredgers come in, so it's that working harbour, and it's lovely to see people walking. We had a nice chat for a lady. She's been on holiday, she had a dog with her, she was going to go in the mountains, made that last minute change, and we had a really nice conversation. She was interested in knowing about what charities I was doing, about where I was walking, which point, and that was fabulous.
And we saw two seals.
And seals.
They were definitely watching us.
And we were watching them, and it was lovely. That was really good. And also we got a bird of prey, a raptor. I don't know which raptor it was.
I think it might have been a sparrowhawk.
Yes, I think you could be right.
Not that I'm a bird expert. Chris, while we're stood here, because it seems like the perfect place.
Yeah.
You work for our education team at Cornwall Hospice Care.
Yeah.
And to me, I kind of worry sometimes that it's one of the hidden parts of our charity, and yet the work you do is so important. Just tell me a bit about the department.
We're a small team compared to probably some other hospices across the country. We offer verification of death, we syringe driving, basic life support, safeguarding training. We offer training both internally, externally. We do training as a special one-off to certain organisations or charities. We do training to care homes, with colleges, and again we're progressing. We do things through Eventbrite as well for external, so people can book on training. I think we offer some really good value training. We do advanced communications.
And for me, that's the interesting thing, that we are experts in the field. You are experts in the field of end-of-life care. You're able to share that to other organisations.
I think that's great. I think to be able to share that kind of, and I think sometimes when we're doing it to external candidates, we have some really good conversations about some of the difficulties they have, especially in areas where they're working with learning disabilities or older people, and there's sometimes their frustrations about how they work with other organisations or with the NHS, and about, I think sometimes when that training, it gives them a chance to talk about how it is in practice, but also they come away with some really good training, and I think that's what they enjoy. And I think most of the people give us really, really good feedback on the training we provide.
I noticed, funnily enough, on your email footer of all things, that you see, I do read everything. that you are a mental health first aider.
I,
I've long wanted to ask you, what does that mean?
I come from a long history. I was a psychiatric nurse. I worked in a lot of fields in psychiatry. I think it's really important. The reason I did it was to support colleagues, and I would like to get more people to come and do the training. I think it's invaluable because sometimes we all have things, bad days in our work, things. It might be our dog that's really unwell. It could be something we're worried about, debts. It's not maybe mental illness, but it's stresses that cause mental illness. And I think sometimes when we all need support sometimes. It's tough sometimes if we're on our own and we're feeling vulnerable or isolated. And sometimes the work we do is really hard sometimes. We're working with families and working with loved ones when they die. And sometimes that really hits us sometimes. And having good people around us that are just willing to listen to us, make a cup of tea, make us feel that we're listened to, or sometimes maybe persuade us to go and see our GP to get more support. And I think that's really important, being a mental health first aider, is to listen and just value people.
Do you know, I'm glad you said listen, because of my background in radio, I have a love of sound. And I often say to people, when you're walking, you might think it's silent, but stop, look and listen, because even now, all the sounds we can hear are just as special as what we can see. Don't you agree?
I think it's important. And what I'm reflecting at the moment is senses, because touch as well and taste. And I think sometimes, that taste that people like, that food, they might, especially at the end of life, they might want to have that favourite sandwich, or sometimes it's just touching a bit of grass in that, just that lovely feel of touching something.
And we came through a bit of, just before we got to today, Mark, we said how lovely the scents were in the house.
Yes.
Yes.
And the smell of wild garlic, you just kind of, and sometimes there's little smells that throw back things from us when we were a kid, or, certain perfumes. I think about my grandmother, or sometimes like a bacon sandwich, or a smell of an ice cream, or whatever it is. It brings back a personal memory for us. Or a bit of music, like you say, the sound again. I think music is a wonderful thing, a wonderful calming thing.
I honestly didn't choose to join you on this leg, except I do happen to know that down at Ready Money, there is the most amazing little outlet that serves ice cream. We are literally within a stone's throw of it.
I keep thinking, I'm looking forward to my ice cream. And it's something, at the end of the day, sometimes it's like, for me at the moment, a can of Coke. I know it's not good for you, like the red normal Coke, but it's sometimes an ice cream or a Coke just ticks that box for me and makes the world feel fabulous. And I think it's just the perfect day to finish our walk before we pop in and go to the shop. So I think it'd be really nice to do.
I was going to say race you to the ice cream
I think
shop,
it may
but
well
I'm
be.
not. That's a good idea, actually.
I got my sticks on the way.
And I'm still learning how to use my sticks. So right, let's go find it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
So this is the little place I promised that we'd come and find. Isn't it amazing?
Hello, how are you?
Hello. All right. What are you up to? So this man is walking the South West Coast Path day on day. He's a colleague of mine at the hospice.
And I think you've met me before when I've been swimming.
Yes, I think you look familiar. You guys, you give up all this time and...
Well, I've been promising Chris that we would finish. Oh, not that we're going into town to go to the charity shop, but we would come here.
I like it in there.
Do you know, I had every intention of having an ice cream, Victoria. Saw the words hot chocolate.
No, she just changed. That's it, just changed. Thank you so much for that.
No, I'm paying for this. What are you having?
I'm having I want to try the rock pool, unless you have any other things that say that are better and that.
No, the rock book amazing.
Oh, good.
Lovely shop.
Thank you very much. Best of luck with the rest of it.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Victoria. Yeah, take care. Wow. Yeah, let's go and find somewhere to sit. And then don't go to your right and look to your right. Welcome to the Fowey Cornwall Hospice Care shop. Hello. How are you? Hello.
All the best for today then.
So beautifully said. This is Chris, who works for us. He's in education, but Chris is walking the whole of the South West Coast Path.
Oh, just about there. I've read about that. What's
Yes.
the popping here?
Yes, and I said I'll try and pop into as many shops as I could.
So how's it going then?
It's getting well. I had a few tough days. Was it last Thursday? We had like big rain.
Oh yeah.
I was down at Penzance, and it was like that, and my head was like, that was a nightmare getting my tent up. And
Yeah.
only had 2 really bad wet days.
Yeah,
Rest
that's
have been
right.
all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we're at Caffa Mill now in Fowey, and this is the parting of the ways. That sounds very final, doesn't it?
Yes.
But this has been a glorious day. Thank you so much for letting me share one of the days of your walk. But I was just reflecting on the fact that not everybody has to do what you're doing, do they? You don't have to set huge goals to make a day matter.
And it's got to be what matters to you, and that's the whole point. What matters to you, whether it's listening to a bit of music. We're just looking here by the ferry, and sometimes it's just getting on the ferry, and sometimes it's those first steps, and sometimes they might be frightening, it might be hard about just going outside or going to do something different. But sometimes just doing something different can be really good for you, and maybe doing something different, maybe taking up dancing, maybe joining the choir, maybe going for a sea swim for the first time. You know, it can be just so good and really nice to try something different, even though you might feel it's frightening. And sometimes the first things time you think, oh my God, am I all right? And it's actually just getting out and doing it and having a go at something and meeting new people and trying new things. And I think that makes a big change. So again, don't forget, everything matters, and it's what matters to you. And don't worry about what other people do, because there's always people doing better or whatever. Don't worry about them. It's about you, what you enjoy, what you love. And I've loved having company with Tamsin today. It's been a superb journey. And it's nice finishing by the ferry, because tomorrow I'm catching the ferry and then heading off to Luke for another day. And it's a restart. And then I think, don't beat yourself up sometimes. It is about a restart. Actually, don't worry about what happened yesterday, whether it was a bad day. It's another day, a restart, a recharge, something new. Don't worry about yesterday. It's about today.
And when you reflect, as you must do when you're doing this huge challenge, are you glad you're doing it?
I am. I smile to myself. I giggle to myself, thinking, "Oh my God!" I look at the map and thinking, "I've been all round there." And my wife says, "Just keep the sea on the right hand side," and I have.
Wise words.
And now I'm going east. And we talked about actually what happens when I finish. I don't know. Maybe I have something else on my bucket list to do. And I think we all have our bucket list. And again, it's coming back. Actually, everyone's different. Their bucket list might be going to see some opera, might be going out to out with a dog walk. And it doesn't matter. It's about what makes you happy, what gives you a smile. And the other one is about being kind to other people, because we don't know what's gone with other people, but it's not kind word. And I've met so many nice people that have given money to the charities I'm doing the walk for, and that's just been lovely.
And how many miles have you got left? Have you calculated it, or don't you dare?
I try not to think about it, but I've got about 250 miles, but I think they're better miles than the first 200. Yeah, they're really hard. The first few days were hard, but now I think actually there are some hard days ahead, but I'm looking forward to a different view, and the Jurassic coast and seeing those fossils and that different bit of the coast. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It really has to walk with you. The best of luck with the rest of
Thank you
it.
so much.
And I look forward to hearing what your next madcap idea might be.
Thank you so much, Tamsin. It's been a real joy today. I've loved every moment. It's really good. Thank you.